The horror. The horror.
This was not an okay. I mean, it turned out okay, but most of it was really not okay. Was that really like 12 minutes? Really? It felt like, most of it felt like an infinite stream of pure horror.
Yeah, it certainly did. I'll grant you your intro was more interesting. Mine was just going to be an obligatory Gurren Lagann reference.
No, that drill did not pierce the heavens. That drill pierced hell itself.
And it didn't even do that, technically.
Yeah. True, it failed at piercing.
It pierced the nothing.
It pierced the void.
It pierced Earth.
Like, we should probably go over the course of this episode, because it wasn't 100% horror. Like, I was describing to a friend earlier, the best kind of musicals are the ones that are pretty fun and funny in the first half, and then destroy every emotion you have ever had in the second half. And I feel like that's a pretty good summary of, like, the course of this episode.
I guess so, yeah. Okay, I'll go over it. So, in this episode, after the last one, Steven joins Peridot in the drill machine thing to go down into the earth to stop the cluster. He bond a bit during the very, very long journey, and also end up fighting some June mutants.
But,
of course.
I was about to say, like, junior abominations?
I guess, let's go with that. But they've ended up fighting some gem mutants and stuff, using a laser gun. Cool. But eventually they finally make their way to the cluster, which is basically a giant, massive ball of gem shards. Cluster is about to form and destroy the Earth, so they decide to use the drill, of course. Multiple drills. I didn't expect that.
3 drills. 3 times the fun.
However, then Steven just starts seeing some things and acting very weird and just faints.
Steven starts tripping pretty hard.
He is somehow using telepathy? Is something to connect to the cluster, which are, at this point, are a million gem pieces wanting to form into something. That's all they are. Eventually, after a lot of talking and trying to reason and crying in horror, he tries to bubble the shards, and that he can't bubble that many shards. But he's eventually able to convince the cluster parts to bubble themselves, which eventually leads to the whole cluster being in a giant bubble. Problem solved? And that is that, I guess.
I feel like this is not the problem solved. just call it a guess.
It was something alright.
Yeah, that was a thing. You know, I just have the beginning is just Peridot being entertaining. It's like, what's the plan? We have a drill. We're going to drill. It's like, when all you have is a drill.
So I think for this season, the people involved in this have been watching a lot of horror movies.
I think so. I vaguely got that impression from, I think, first we have the upreaching arms of the souls of the damned, then we have the screaming faces of the damned, and then, just to complete the unholy trinity, the wailing, whispering voices of the damned. And if you don't know how a voice can wail and whisper at the same time, you haven't seen any good horror movies.
True enough. I'm not sure exactly what I thought was the creepiest part. Something about just the cluster just suddenly having a million hands trying to grab.
Yeah.
Something about that creeped me out a lot.
I wonder what it could be. I mean, not like the mutant parts that they were shooting down with the laser gun, weren't freaky enough. Although, my favorite part of that wasn't necessarily the laser gun, it was the fact that he was controlling it with a Nintendo 64 controller, and the fact that when he said, "This feels wrong," Peridot's response was, "Well, just use the D-pad." I'm like, oh god, suddenly it's 1997 again.
Yes, just use the D-pad. Let's be honest for a second. Yeah. You don't use the D-pad on the N64 controller.
You don't. You only did that if you were still getting the hang of transferring over from the NES.
Yes.
And when we got Nintendo 64, I was still very young and adaptable, so. control stick over all the way and smoking all my older cousins at Mario Kart.
Yep.
Good times.
Good times.
So yeah, it was pretty funny aside from the kind of inherent freakiness of the mutants up until then. And I have like 3 instances of telling Steven to give Peridot a hug.
Honestly, to me, it wasn't that freaky until they actually got to the cluster, and then just things got weird, and Steven's just like that is some real horror. That to me is the real horror shit. When you just start hallucinating and just, what is reality anymore?
Well, yeah, like a lot of the facial expressions Steven made were pretty freaky. Just how genuinely scared for him Peridot was. When she realized what was going on. Which, it's also very sweet how intensely Peridot's come to care for Steven, and the only gems that Steven in particular, since she's, come to the light side of the Force.
Yeah.
And I just had a moment where, it's when she started drilling and Steven's freaking out. I'm just like, oh no, that's just is he like channeling the cluster's pain as it's being triple drilled or something? Because...
Yeah, that's what I got out of it. So that's sort of how they do these sort of stories.
Yeah, that...
Like, the most empathetic one immediately gets the basically empathy kind of transfers to them. And it's bad.
And it's pain. It's pain for the sweetest, nicest member of the cast. Because that's how they roll.
That's always how they roll.
And, yeah, and then he trips out and then he's inside the cluster and there's all the voices speaking to him and just longing to have a physical form again.
That's also really freaky to me. Just, like, the gems, the only thing they know anymore is just wanting to form.
Yeah, it's like they just have a craving for existence. They don't have anything else.
Yeah, something about that really freaked me out too. Like,
I've just realized what it reminded me of, actually. There's a bit somewhere in Full Metal Alchemist where I think it's when Envy's involved and he's doing that horrible form where you can see all the souls that make up his Philosopher's Stone and they're begging Ed to, they want a body, they just want to have a body of their own.
Oh yeah, that.
That was fun. That was fun times, and that is what this reminded me of, because Steven Universe has an ongoing trend of reminding me of the singular most fucked up parts of Full Metal Alchemist.
True enough.
It's not bad enough that the first time we met any of the gem abominations, I just had a complete "Big brother, let's play" moment.
No.
And also, when Steven was in the center of the gem cluster, my first response was, okay, this makes sense in context, but all that I've got written is "lick the rocks, Steven." I thought maybe since he healed Lapis's gem, he might be able to help some of these gems with his magical abilities. No.
They've made it almost abundantly clear. Like they've kind of sidestepped that whole part about
they've never
Steven healing things.
Trying to like a truly buggered gem, so we don't actually know whether or not it would help.
Like, yeah, it's very weird right now with that. Yeah. I'm sure they'll bring it back someday, but...
Someday.
In the rain.
But yeah, and then the bubbling, and just the fact that he manages to get through to them enough that they start bubbling each other.
Yeah.
And that says a lot for, the remaining sentience in these gems, and also just when Steven, super bubbles. That was pretty cool.
Yes, it was. Really cool. Peridot is so awesome, by the way.
I love her character development so much.
I love her literally everything. Even during this, she's just so funny. There's actually a lot of good humor in the first half of this.
There is.
Like her ironic line, "Am I the only one who understands the meaning of teamwork?"
And the fact that it's coming from Peridot of, all of them.
It's just... Oh yeah, Peridot. The part with the radio. It sounded exactly like elevator music as they're drilling down.
Yes, each is out. Wish I had some tunes, and she has elevator music.
Do.
Oh, just going down. And he's like, "I'm ready to go," and she's like, "We have 2 hours." But I also, oh god, I adore the bit where she's talking about the, the flows that they're in, the same mineral as Peridot, and it's like peridotite or something.
Yeah.
And just the way, it's such a simple art style, but the way they draw her face during that whole scene conveys some really heavy emotion, particularly when she's talking about not feeling anything about her home world. And she's already picked up the idea from stealing the other gems that she should feel something about where she came from, and she just doesn't.
Actually, I think it was more, she said the line, I believe it was, that she knew nothing about it before she came to be, but she feels about it, basically.
Yeah, like, no memories, only feelings.
It's hard to not have feelings about where you came from, basically.
Oh, yeah. And she says to E.T., yeah, that's one of the bits where I desperately want Stephen to give her a hug, because she was in need. She was in dire need.
I'm surprised that they've already... She was just straight up like... I think she's literally the first character... Okay, no, that's not true, but... I was surprised how quickly she was like, I love you, Stephen. It's because she literally thought she was gonna die.
Yeah, well, you can't not love Stephen.
True enough.
Because he's also very earnest when he tells Peridot that he loves her too and he thinks they're gonna die. She's like, oh, babies. And then thankfully they don't die, they just fall into horror so much for her.
Worse than death, yay!
Yay, we survived to suffer for eternity.
Yeah. So this was certainly a way to open a season.
Yeah, this was a hell of a season opener.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened, and...
They've broken up Malachite and put Jasper back on the loose and hopefully gotten Lapis in safe hands, but we really have no idea what kind of state she's going to be in when she wakes up. They've bubbled...
It's probably the same state they're always in.
Suffering?
No, it's... whatever state they're in. There are 50 of them.
It's such an American pun.
Lion the mood. Lion the mood.
Moving along.
Shall we? Okay, so...
But yeah, they've got the cluster bubble, but I feel like that can't last. But I am
I'm very suspicious about that.
I'm wondering what they're going to turn into in there, just chatting to each other for however long,
They could just not do anything for a while, because... Remember that time Peridot was bubbled? Like, she literally continued her sentence from before?
Well, she was also in physical form at the time, she wasn't in gem form. Whereas, all the gems in the cluster are in broken gem form, but it was implied that they were speaking to each other when Stephen left them. So I'm just wondering what's going to happen while they're talking to each other, what they're going to become. I'm hoping Yellow Diamond doesn't fuck with that, but, clearly she is a woman set on fucking some shit up.
It'd just be funny if, they were just small-talking at this point.
Sharon, so, where are you from? Homeworld? Probably. You?
Me too! Nice weather here, right? There's no weather here at all.
Not at the center of the earth, no.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just like, what do you like better? This interpretation where the center of the earth is a giant cluster of malformed, half-dead gems, or the Doctor Who version where it's giant spiders?
You should probably ask someone who watches Doctor Who.
Go back and watch Doctor Who up until... Say from the beginning till David Tennant leaves. Sadly, there hasn't been any Doctor Who since then. I'm not sure what's on now. Not sure what the kids these days watch. I miss Doctor Who. I'm so sad it ended. That is my story and I'm sticking to it.
Cool. Okay, so, what I was gonna say before is, even though this episode is really, 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 really good, it's basically just an awesome horror episode.
it feels like it should have been so much longer than it was.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say,
How is this 11 minutes? How did they fit all that into 11 minutes?
Yeah, that's kind of my problem. Okay, so they built up the cluster for how many episodes now? In a row? And now they just... Okay, and again, this seems to be a pattern. The first episode, they're just getting to the cluster, and when they actually get to the cluster, it's like 5-6 minutes, and the whole thing is kinda solved. And like, well, there goes that for at least a while, okay. Now what?
Yeah, both the fact that it's clearly not over, and the fact that, how they finished it for now is such an emotional roller coaster, I'm fine with it. Like, I've adjusted fine to Steven Universe's run length. I know you have a harder time with the run length of the episodes, but I'm just like, okay, yeah. I don't think I could have taken 20 minutes of that.
The ironic thing is, most of the time, I think the runtime's used perfectly. It's just that, I don't know, I don't want to say they hate story climaxes, but I will say that it seems like their philosophy is that to just make one episode that's just crazy, one big climax just there, and then just end it. And even then, it's hard to say that, because, like, half of the time the climax, especially during, like, Jailbreak, it seemed like half of that episode, at least, was more used to start stories rather than actually end any stories. Like, even end it in a way that feels like a climax. Like, we had this one fight, we're good now. I don't get it. I just don't.
I don't know, it's never felt anticlimactic to me. It's just because there's so much emotional intensity in the climaxes that when they come, I genuinely didn't perceive... Like, I am struggling to comprehend how the episode was only 11 minutes. It felt like at least twice that.
That's because it literally feels like a 22-minute episode that but they don't do 22-minute episodes, so they're like, 11 minutes, we can do this. And they did, but it's just... I don't know, to me it just would have been even better had it, like, really stretched out some of this stuff and really gone in depth.
Yeah. I don't think they have the capacity to do that, given that the episode sizes and demographics that they're working with. And I think they do so well with short episodes, it has yet to really be a serious, off-putting. But that's just me. Like,
I mean, I could see that. It wouldn't be hard to just do part 1, part 2 to this, right? It's really the same with Malachite. Like, well, like, she's suddenly actually back now, and then she's defeated.
that's
Threatening.
a really cool fight.
Yeah, it was a cool fight, but it's like all the villains, just like, the threateningness, or whatever you want to call it, it just kind of sucked away, because it just ends so quickly. Again, maybe that's just me, like, so much of the stuff I've watched in the past has been just stuff where they really, really, really extend fights as much as they can.
I was always hated that kind of anime, because I was always just like, are you still fighting? Do we have nothing else going on in this show? I like a cool anime fight, but I hate it when they get dragged out. Like, that always feels like it's stalling the plot to me.
Sometimes, but there have been times where I've really liked it, because it basically allowed... I think because, one, it allowed each attack to actually feel like it was significant on its own. And also because I felt like they did more to really combine, like, the more emotional story to the actual physical fights going on. Like, Steven Universe does that, but it's obvious that the emotional aspect is just so much more of a priority. Yeah. Whereas the fighting is done because, well, they have to do the fights at some point. Let's just do it. It'll be fun.
The emotional aspect is what I'm here for, so I don't mind getting short but cool fights.
I just feel like they could just really think it's, just for my taste, I just wish they evened it out a little more at points. Just use the fighting too, and like use the both aspects to like help each other, I guess. That's just how I look at these sort of things.
It's the other part is also probably a symptom of the disease called being a long-term Detective Conan fan. But I just love the fact.
Fair enough.
I just love the fact that they're keeping the plot ever changing at a very rapid pace.
Yeah.
Like there isn't a huge amount of time spent in any sort of status quo in the show, and that is a breath of fresh air.
I think it's also a bit disappointing to me because it's obvious that they've stopped even pretending to just be an episodic series. Like let's be honest, like most of the last 8 episodes of the last season were just an arc. Like it wasn't even like, it was all very connected, and even like they didn't even feel half the time as strong on their own. They worked best connected to each other.
Yeah, which does make me wonder how the viewing figures are breaking down. Like, I think she did say the same thing that I think Rebecca Sugar was aiming for the same thing that the guys who made Gravity Falls were aiming for, is like, you know, a reward for the kind of people who rewatch their favourite cartoons and spot little things in the background, you know.
Yeah, that's true enough.
In this case, a reward for people who like to follow big, long character arcs and, long stories over little episodic bits. I don't know.
Also, because they're really good at it.
It's maybe just more excuses to get space lesbians to dance together, which
That
I'm
too.
also always on board for, so you never know.
So that was that, I guess. What else is there to say?
That was a doozy of a season opener, and I will be rewatching most of it in my nightmares.
Fun. Actually, one quick thing. I keep forgetting this, but it is a little suspicious to me that this was advertised as sort of like a 4-week event. And we're on the first week, and the plot threads, the conflict seems to be at least done for now. So that's a little
I'm
odd.
just wondering if they're clearing those out in the way for new conflicts. Like, I am jonesing to see what's up with Yellow Diamond. And also if they're going to tell us what's up with the 4th gem, the white one. It's on all the murals with Blue Diamond, Yellow Diamond, and Rose Quartz.
I wonder where they're gonna go in the next few episodes, because, is this actually the end of the story? Or, like, are they gonna continue these plot threads later, or are they actually gonna continue them soon? Because if it's an event,
yeah,
you would think that they would just continue it. I'm
seriously wondering how badly Lapis has been buggered up by her second stint of imprisonment, this time with, a somewhat psychopathic warrior gem. I also love Peridot's comment, when Lapis is just tired from sharing a body with Malachite, and Peridot's like, sharing a ship with Malachite made me tired. Oh, Peridot, why are you the one bringing light to my life this season? The universe is a strange and confusing place now.
How much of a trolling move would it be if the next episode is just, some random side characters?
Oh, God. Bring back the Pizza Shop family, I love them. I don't know, Connie reading books for a whole episode. Something chill, and not nightmarish.
Maybe just something stupid, just 2 random characters together for no reason. Lars has to do community service for the mayor! Steven gets dragged along, derp-a-derp. I'm not convinced Lars is still alive. He's vanished.
I'm not convinced anybody cares.
He's gonna be in a milk carton. Have you seen this man?
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this episode that I haven't already screamed at the microphone in a way that made at least 3 members of my family walk into my room with concerned expressions.
Awesome.
You
did it!
A lot of frantic miming on my part at the beginning of the episode, assuring them that I'm not dying in front of my computer like they always knew I would someday.
Yeah, that's it. That's all we have.
So.
Good luck sleeping tonight!
Next week on Steven Universe. Hopefully not any more nightmares. That's all I have to say about that.
Goodbye.